Mate, how the hell are you? Who are you?
Okay, man.
Who are you?
I'm Peter.
Peter. And where are you from?
I'm from Czech Republic. So for anyone who's not from Czech Republic, it's basically in the middle of Central Europe, right next to Germany. So very small country. You might have heard of Prague, like the capital, very historic, a lot of towers. It's actually called the city of 100 towers. So you have a lot of towers there.
Mate, I'm pleased to hear that. But it's not good enough for you right now. Prague's not good enough for you.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it ever will be. I mean, like, I love it for the people there, and obviously it's a beautiful city and everything. But on the other hand, if I had to like pick the best city to live in, Prague probably would not be my number one if it was purely for the city itself. On the other hand, like, obviously I have a lot of friends, I have family, I have like so many great memories. So it's also like it's different to other cities, obviously, but like just from perspective of like living somewhere, yeah, then probably not.
Yeah.
For now, at least, I would
No,
say.
I get you. I get you. For the enormous audience that will obviously be listening to this in the future, my name's
Yeah,
Richard,
right.
and this is an attempt at podcast number one. I met Peter a few months ago in Melbourne in a boxing gym. He punched the shit out of me, and then we could finally be friends. And now, and now he's an adventurous young man, and he's found himself in Colombia. And what on earth are you doing in Colombia? We can edit out anything we need to.
So, I mean, obviously, like the first thing that like that needs to be said is not I'm just not traveling. So like a lot of people when I said okay I'm leaving again, they would be like, oh, so you're gonna see so many cool stuff and you're gonna travel so much, and it's not really like that. So I'm not here like a tourist. I'm doing the digital nomad thing. I'm working remotely for a company back home. I just like a month, 2 months ago, I just submitted my master thesis, so like uni was done as well, and now I'm just like enjoying the opportunity to travel the world because my job as a software engineer allows me to do that pretty easily. My company is like super supportive in this. Like the CEO told me, hey, just like if I were you, I would do the same. Everyone basically told me, yeah, I would do the same if I were you. They even like helped me with the time difference because like when I was in Australia, the time difference was actually more favorable because it was plus 10 or 8 hours depending on the day saving time. So like my stand-ups, which are typically in like 9 a.m. Prague time, would be like in the evening, so still manageable. But now since I'm on the like to the west from Prague, my stand-ups would be like 2 in the morning. So they even moved that for me not to have to wake up like 2 a.m. or stay awake that late. So yeah, it actually just made a lot of sense to enjoy traveling or like moving around for a bit while I can. And why Colombia? Well, there is not like one particular reason. It's just I was searching for next destinations. I've never been to South America, and whenever like I found some list of top destinations for digital nomads in South America, Colombia and especially Medellin, that's where I am at the moment, or Medellin, or whatever you want to call it, was usually in like top three, top five spots, and the tickets were actually pretty cheap, and the flights were actually easy to like to not to book, but it was like very actually straightforward flight. You just get to Madrid, and then there's direct flight straight to Colombia. So it was like, yeah, it just like made a lot of sense. And never been. I had a few friends who've been, so I had only positive feedback. So yeah, just
Yeah. Oh, mate, of course. No, I envy you, and I'm sure many people envy the lifestyle. Um, when you work, do you work from like your hotel or do you go like a co-working space?
Not really. I usually get co-working because I try to separate my like personal and off time from my work time as
Mm,
much as possible. Because first of all, if you work back home, usually like hotels or Airbnbs are not really made for like full-time workers, and even if they claim they are, they still have like very shitty chair, small table,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
So you would be just hunching over the computer, not really being able to focus full time. Also, not really the issue here in Colombia, but in many places before, like unless you go someplace meant for working, the stability of internet is very questionable. That was, for example, the case in Bali.
interesting.
Um, Also, like if you go somewhere where you have dedicated workspace and you have other people working, I just feel like it's so much easier to tune in and actually focus on the work.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Now, I saw some videos of you riding a motorbike around some hills and across a very narrow bridge.
Yeah,
Mate, you just love doing dangerous things.
yeah, I do, man. Like the more dangerous, the better. But it's not like I would do anything. I would say I'm cautious, but the more stuff you do, the more, how to say, the more you trust your capabilities and your instincts and everything. So once you start like pushing that bar higher and higher, it's just like for someone who's never done anything like that, it might be sketchy or scary. For me, it's just like the natural next step. But this was definitely the most demanding bike ride I've ever done. So I've been riding bike for a while now. It's always a road bike, and like once in a while, one of my uh, moto friends, he enjoys actually going off road as well. So once in a while, we would do like a like a gravel road, but nothing like serious like off road. But this was, man, like that was insane. We were like for 20 minutes we were just climbing. I just had to had my first gear in the whole time because otherwise like the bike would not climb, and like my back wheel was spinning all time. I almost like fell like 7 times throughout the whole climb. But the views, it was just stunning, and the whole like adrenaline rush and everything, that's just, I freaking love it.
Mate, it looked like a good time.
It
Yeah.
was, it was.
And how the people treating you? How's your Spanish?
Spanish stacks, man. Like that was probably my biggest surprise here so far. I mean, like I must admit, like Colombia or Medellin so far has been maybe the biggest culture shock for me in like very long time, because I've been traveling quite a lot and I've seen a lot of places, but this is very different to anything I've been before. For some reason, I kind of expected it to be very Asian, kind of like Asian kind of vibe, but it really is not. And
How do you describe an Asian vibe, a cultural vibe?
so first of all, people there are usually, at least the countries I've been to, like it works very differently. For example, you have no prices, so you usually have to barter. So wherever you go, they go like, oh, very expensive, then you have to go very cheap, and then you meet the other one somewhere in between, which I personally hate. And I
Yeah.
get scammed, or not scammed, but I get very bad deals so many times in my life, and it just like, even if you love the product you bought and then you realize you paid like overpaid like 3 times, you're just upset.
Yeah.
And also like the people there are way louder often it really depends. Like Asia is a huge continent, so you have a lot of like each country is very different. Now I was more referring to like the more undeveloped countries like Indonesia or Vietnam, where like the infrastructure is just not up to our standards, and a lot of the things just work very differently. So I was kind of expecting the same here, and to some extent it definitely is. But on the other hand, well, for example, in Bali, I felt like the European or the Western infrastructure that was built was like built just very randomly just to be there, but it just did not fit in. But here, like the cities are actually very sophisticated, I would say. At least Medellin is so far is actually like the infrastructure is actually pretty cool, and like it's kind of cleaner than expected. And like initially I felt not very safe, and you still get the vibe, but if you follow some precaution, it's not like even, yeah, you just feel like I feel definitely more like I'm in a European city than in Asian city, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, like probably the biggest culture shock. And like the first 2 days, for example, I think I did not see a single white guy. I was the only white guy anywhere I went, and I dressed like a white guy, so I had my trousers on, and I was like very hipstery, and like
Yeah.
everyone was just staring at me the same way. Like if someone very ethnical would come to like village in Czech Republic, everyone would be like, "What? He's not white." So here it's the other way around. So like I did not feel very good initially. Like
Yeah.
eventually you get used to it. Also, I met a lot of like other not exchange students, but like digital nomads from mostly states, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it gets better, and also you meet more people, so it's fine. But initially, actually, I that I'm not even sure if it had ever happened to me before then, but I was like the first or second day here, I was just walking in the downtown and then got to this very sketchy uh, part of the town, and I did not feel safe, so I just turned around and walked back home. And I don't think I've ever been to a place where I did not feel like safe to that point that I just like did not want to be there anymore.
Yeah. Interesting. And you've been having trouble keeping your shorts together. They just don't last in the Colombian weather.
I told you that in
In private.
in private.
Oh, sorry, mate.
No, but that's
Pete,
fine. Like,
Pete, he does a lot of squats. He's got very muscular quads. It's just hard for him to find a pair of shorts that fit.
once we're done, I'll send you a video. Like, you will have a lot of laugh.
Thank you. I look forward to that.
But yeah, sorry, you actually asked me about my Spanish initially, and then I took it to someplace else. But like,
That's what it's
hopefully it's
about.
okay.
Of course.
But
Of course.
yeah, Spanish is yeah, I I did not see this coming, because like I've been to places where obviously, I mean, I spent like half a year in Australia, and everyone speaks Australian unless like the someone in the outback. Those people don't like. I don't understand what language that is, but yeah, in general, like language has never been a barrier, or has been, but generally for either me not being able to speak English all that well, that was in the first few years of my traveling. And then like sometimes you would get to places where people kind of understand and are able to, like, for example, sell you stuff, or just like you can kind of get away with them speaking very little English and you speaking enough English to make the conversation happen. But here, nada. Like seriously, nothing at all. Like uh, I think I met like altogether maybe 3 or 4 Colombians who speak English. One of them spoke very well because he studied in UK, so when he started talking to me, I was like, "Are you British or what?" But that was the only like Colombian guy who actually spoke very well English. And then like majority of people, even in like this touristic parts of town, they don't speak nothing. So I have to use a lot of Google Translate or whatever, just type whatever I need and just show it to them. Which on the other hand, you don't want to do too often because like Colombia is kind of known for like, okay, if you pull out your phone on the street, someone's just gonna grab it out of your hand. So it's like, so either, yeah, I started learning Spanish actually because like some basics, it's definitely like, it's a must if you want to travel here.
Yeah. Do you invest a bit of time in learning every day, or just when you have time you learn?
I mean, when I said I just started, it meant like 3 days ago. So
yeah.
I've been investing like 5 to 10 minutes each day since, but it's not like long-term commitment yet. So we'll catch up in like a month or so.
Good.
Next podcast we can do in Spanish.
Absolutely. It's funny. The lady who sits opposite me in the office, she's from Panama, so she speaks Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hear a lot of Spanish in the office actually. Yeah.
All right. So just we can switch to English. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa? To Spanish.
Mate, it's funny. I'm not sure anyone's going to listen to us talking in English. We'd have an even smaller audience if we spoke in Spanish, because the Spanish speakers would be like, "What is this nonsense?" And
but
the English speakers.
That's actually, is it though? Because I'm not sure. Because like for white people, you're just like another white dude with a podcast.
Mate, that was the funniest video I think I've seen in my life. I started watching the first guy's talking about he's got 3 days in a day. Who's I don't even know who he is. Some like
no clue.
Some guru. Yeah, but that was a hilarious song. Another white boy with a podcast. Yeah.
But yeah, actually, like in Bali, while in Bali, I met another Australian guy. What's with me and Australian dudes? I have no clue. But somehow I just attract that. It's the Australian in me. Like I feel like wherever I go, there is some force pulling.
Yeah.
But yeah, another Australian guy who was actually co-founder of this like Spanish English learning platform. So he would be developing a mobile app for not Portuguese, Brazilians. So they actually speak Portuguese, sorry, not Spanish, but Portuguese. And his co-founder, he actually somehow became influencer while traveling in Brazil, because I don't know, maybe he spoke some. I'm not sure if he's Brazilian and moved to Australia or the other way around, but I mean, like I can imagine there's a lot of English-speaking listeners, especially if the content is so fun as this one. Obviously,
sure.
Right?
Yeah, mate, absolutely. I know, like Mr. Beast, he is now translating all his content into Spanish. I mean, it's a whole other world. It's a whole other history. It's a whole other cultural world. It's interesting. Like you speak multiple languages. I don't, but like all the media I ever consume, it's always in English. So there's a lot of culture, a lot of history. We miss out on speaking just one language. I think Spanish is like number 4 in the world. It's up there.
I think it might be actually number 3.
Number 3, interesting.
No, actually, I don't know. Could be.
Look, Google will tell anyone. We don't need to dwell on that.
Right. But yeah, I mean, like, now I'm not sure if you've noticed, but Spotify just announced like a feature, auto translation to different language. So once you upload the podcast, it will straight away just like upload a translated, not just translated, but it's like a spoken translation. So like it
like
translates
AI generated.
So yeah. So it even generates the voice, so you don't have to do anything.
That's crazy, man. So it won't sound like a robotic voice. It'll sound like
it,
a human talking.
yeah, I'm not sure to what extent, because like this is actually very, very difficult to emulate, obviously, human speech, but like we can do it now. So I'm just not sure to what extent it's like personalized, so it sounds kind of like you speaking Spanish. I'm not sure
Yeah,
if it's just like, so they're able to do like Spanish speaking robot, which sounds very human. That's fine. That's kind of, it's difficult, but they know how to do it. But I know they're trying to make it sound like you, but I'm just not sure if they are, if it's already at this stage that you can actually make it sound like you speaking Spanish, or if it's just a male voice speaking Spanish. But
yeah.
I don't think it matters. Like it's like,
It's an incredible feature. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think anything that can reduce language as a barrier between people is probably a good thing.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but we'll see. I
And
mean, who knows? Yeah,
and now I'm agreeing more than ever, seriously, because like never ever had I had such a bad language barrier as I do have here, and it's quite limiting to what you can do. What, like, even if you go out and you want to order a meal or whatever, it's just so much more struggle than anywhere else I've been to.
yeah,
And yeah, it's just, it's not something you cannot overcome. It's just very annoying, I would say.
yeah. And how is the food?
Disgusting, man.
You don't like it?
No, no, I don't think, like, not even Colombians would tell you that like Colombian food is something special. I mean, I've had some of the dishes were decent. I had, okay, so there's seriously just one thing that just changed my life, and that's like steak. I definitely had the best steak in my life, which in like 2 months I'm traveling, like, oh, I'm moving to Chile in like a week, and then probably in, I don't know, like 1.5 months to Argentina, and I can imagine the steaks there are gonna be even better. But seriously, man, this that was like the best piece of meat I've ever tasted. It was, yeah. I just sat there and I was just like mind blown. I don't think I've ever had that with a meal because it was just delicious. But the rest of the cuisine is just, it usually looks very good, and sometimes it tastes like all right or good, but it's not like, it's not mind blowing. So if you go to Italy and get a pizza there, it's like, if you go to, I don't know, uh, if you go to many places, if you go to Asia and get some like whatever ramen or whatever you need, then it's like, but here it's like, have you ever had Colombian cuisine? Like,
I
there's
don't think
probably
so.
a reason why you don't get many Colombian restaurants around the world.
Interesting. Interesting. So, what did they do to
Yeah,
the steak to make the steak so good?
it's just the meat. It wasn't like particularly like seasoned. I think it was just pepper and salt. But the meat just, because if you saw you saw the video, so like you have mountains everywhere, and the cows are just grass fed, and they run in the mountains. So I just, I think it's just the meat, seriously. So probably some special breed of the cow, and also like the way they treat the cows here, and oh my god, so I could eat it every single day, and I wouldn't have enough.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's always good to find something you like.
Yeah, and coffee is great. Coffee is great. That's for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, because they probably grow a bunch of coffee there. I would imagine.
They do. Yeah. Normally, when I'm kind of very into coffee. I like to. Yeah, I'm very much into coffee. So I've done my research, and I know like some history. I know what kind of coffee you can get around the world, and so. So back home or wherever I am, Colombia is definitely not my favorite. But here it just like, first of all, I think since it's like so easy, so readily available here, and it's also like locally grown, I think there's some, to some extent, probably like what you get in Europe is gonna be the still, even though they claim it's like small farmers and everything, I think like whoever produces on this scale, there's probably some, to some extent, some industrialization and something. So even though you might get the best beans, there's still some like process and like who knows. But here, since it's local and you have so, the coffee is just part of the culture here. It's very different experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, that's good. Now, last time I spoke to you, Peter, you were intending on moving back to the Czech Republic, starting a business, becoming a
Yeah,
millionaire, and then it didn't
yeah.
take long. Like, how long was it? A month or 2 months? And then you're like, no,
One
I'm
and a
going to
half
travel.
months.
1.5 months. Then you decided you had to
Yeah,
travel the world again.
yeah.
So what changed?
Nothing really changed. It's actually happening. But I just like it for as long as I can do it remotely, which now we're at the stage it can. Actually, I spoke to because I told you like the business is based on my master thesis,
Yep.
and I would need to get the professors involved. So just before I left, I actually went to them, talked to them, and they were both actually very, very much into the idea.
Yeah.
And they both agreed to move along with like trying to set up a spin-off and set up our own company. So
Do you want
now
to,
I'm
for the audience,
yeah,
do you want to
yeah.
briefly run through the idea, or do you think it's too early? It's undeveloped. We don't talk about that
It's
yet.
not too early. It's actually a very mature idea, and not that I'm
Yeah.
like so brilliant that I came up with all the idea in my thesis. But the thing is,
Yeah.
I built on something they've been like doing for quite a while, and the topic is just optimization of industrial robots. So in general, like the easiest example is probably automotive industry. So cars are not really built by people anymore, but they are assembled by robots. And you would typically have the car body on like a conveyor belt, and then you would have different workstations alongside the conveyor belt, and each of the workstation would be responsible for something different. So one would be like mounting the windshield, another one would be welding some other part. And what they have developed is that they are able to optimize the they're actually able to do two things. So they're either able, if you have multiple robots that are working together, and some of they typically work, their trajectories, they intersect somewhere. So unless you want them to crash to each other and break down, you need one of them to wait till the other one finishes the job. And this is actually very hard to do right. So they developed a solution how to like slow one down, or like the correct order of the operations or the correct speed of the operation for the whole process to be finished as soon as possible. So you would effectively reduce the time needed to perform all the operations. And the second thing, which actually is something I was working on, is that if you know that you perform all the steps in a certain time, but the conveyor belt only moves every like 5 seconds, for example, but you finish the job in 2 seconds, then you have 3 seconds where the robot just stays there idly. So if you slow down the robot's movement, you can actually save significant amount of energy. So let's say if you slow the whole movement to so that the movement is not finished in 2 seconds, but 4 seconds, you're able to save, depending on like many variables, but up to let's say 50% of the energy. So you'll still be able to finish everything and save a lot of energy. So it's actually like very cool thing. And yeah, so this is basically something that was invented on at the university, and they've been like kind of growing this idea and the solution for past couple of years. But since they're very academic and very into just inventing stuff, but not too much into selling the stuff, they just never really commercialized that. And when I not confronted them, but probably I confronted them with like the opportunity and the potential this thing has in like if it was properly marketed and properly like backed into some solution that the automotive and other industries can actually use, then it might be very cool thing. And they agreed. So now we're in the process of trying to figure out the legal stuff. So you need to transfer the IP from university to the separate company. We need to obviously, because we're gonna need a lot of money, so we need to raise money from venture capital companies. And for that, you need to convince them that the market is big enough, that you have sufficiently strong team, business case, and everything. So I'm just researching a lot of things, contacting a lot of like business people to get some advice, to get some doors open, and so on. And yeah, once that is done, there is no stopping me.
That's good to hear. That's really exciting. Yeah, I have no doubt anything will stop you. So when does the worldwide adventure come to an end, or it just keeps on going until you have to be back in
No,
the
so
Czech Republic?
I actually have a date, not exact date, but a month when I have to be back, because I submit my thesis, but my uni won't be done until I defend the thesis. And also, which is very special for Czech Republic, you have to do like final state exams for you to get actual degree. So basically, the whole all the courses you've studied throughout your studies, you have to kind of remind yourself what you've studied, and then like they can ask you basically anything from the whole course of your studies.
Wow.
And yeah, you unless you can pass that, you're gonna be just like, yeah, you won't get your diploma no matter that you passed all the courses that you submitted thesis. You have to first defend the thesis, but once you submit it, you get the grades, and then it's basically just presenting it to someone else. So that should be fine. But the state exam is actually like pretty fucked up.
Yeah, man. That's really interesting. I haven't heard of that. Obviously, my university was very different. You just do a unit, do the exam, and then on to the next one.
Yeah, that's how it works in most countries. But this is actually, I think this is like relict of, I don't know, like 200 years ago, when like the universities were either, okay, so you'll go through the whole uni just as you do now, or you can self-study and just come for the final state exams and get the same diploma. So that actually makes a lot of sense, I would say. But now, since I'm not sure even if like back then you would have like full-time students. It might have been just like, I don't know. I don't know. But I think this is actually how this all came to be. And since your country and like a lot of the American countries are not as old as the universities or the system, educational system in my country, it might be actually the case because you straight up like started the unis when it was like not really necessary to do that anymore. But as everyone knows, like universities are very slow in changing. This is not even like university; this is on government level, so it's somewhere instilled, and I don't think it's gonna change anytime soon.
Yeah. Mate, you'll be fine. You'll get through it.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. But yeah, as I
Yeah,
said, I'll have to be back beginning of next year, the latest. So it's January/February, because like that's where when my final exams are gonna be. And also it's a good timing because like now we don't really want to start approaching the VC companies because of this situation on market. It's like very bearish and everyone is afraid. There's not much going on in the VC world, but like in general, like uh, yeah, the sentiment is not really that great. So you would get less money for more equity,
yeah, yeah,
and so but it's eventually gotta change because like all the VC companies they work in certain ways that require them to simply invest. They can't just keep the money forever. They just need to invest all the money eventually. And since
yeah,
they haven't been investing heavily in the past year or year and a half, they'll only have just a few years left to invest all the money. So once it starts happening, it's gonna be probably big, and we want to wait for that time because it's going to be probably easier and also yeah, it's going to be easier and in better conditions for us, and also we'll have time to have more answers than we have now.
yeah, yeah, mate. It's so funny. Have you ever seen Shark Tank? That show where
Yeah,
they
I
have,
have.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't watch a lot of telly, but I caught an episode of that a few days ago on TV. So funny, very entertaining watching.
it
There was
is.
this one
I'm not
lady.
sure. I'll tell you if it's the same. I'll tell you if it looks
So
anything like that.
sure. So yeah, maybe popular internationally as well. It probably didn't start in Australia, but so you have a creator, an entrepreneur who has an idea, and they bring it to a panel of judges, and they pitch it, and they say, we're looking for funding, and then if the judges like the idea, they'll offer some money for some equity. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
this one lady had an idea. She called it the chicken orb, and it's like a little round cage that you put a chicken in, and then it can like roam around, but it can't get into your garden beds. And yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense to me. She didn't have many sales, and I actually felt bad for her because like she sort of fell apart on stage. She didn't know her revenue numbers, but I don't know. I guess you got to throw a few silly ideas in the mix to make it an entertaining TV show.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, but honestly, I don't think this is happening just on telly. A friend of mine, very good friend of mine, she just started working in VC company, and she said that like you have to filter through a lot, and it's not like obviously you have a lot of probably viable companies that do not get funded just because it's not the right fit for the VC fund. But then you have a lot
Yep.
of companies that are just straight up absolute total bullshit, like never ever could that like happen.
Yep.
And that's just yeah, I don't think that happens only on telly. Probably not chicken orbs or whatever you want to call them, but like something like that. But it always has some AI in it nowadays.
Yeah. 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 AI is very popular. Have you been keeping close tabs on AI developments since we last spoke? Are you very interested in that space?
I mean, my field of study was AI, so to some extent, I'm definitely like still keeping an eye on it. On the other hand, it's like there's so much happening, so I'm sure like a lot of the trends are just passing me, and I have no clue they're happening.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
like every day researching whatever is the latest, greatest. On the other hand, like because of my like studies and everything, I have some reliable, let's say, channels from where I get these like updates information. So like whenever there's something cool, I usually just either read quick summary of what it could do, what it will be able to do in a few years and so on. And
Yeah.
also, since a lot of my friends are also like from uni, they have similar interests. So like whenever I talk to them, they would be like, "Oh, have you heard about this and that?" So it helps a lot if you have someone who actually, yeah, that does that a lot. So I would say majority of my newly found knowledge from that field comes from friends or some channels that I've like set up during my studies.
Man, what's on for the rest of your day? What are your plans?
So I'm still like, it's still a work day, so I'll have to finish a couple of tickets and then probably work out. And tomorrow I'm headed for the ayahuasca ritual. So I have to pack my stuff and yeah, get ready. Buy some. You're supposed to have some like what it's called. Uh, Iron drinks or something like Gatorade or something like that. Because
Yeah.
apparently you can get very dehydrated.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Mate, super exciting. Hats off for being brave enough to do that. Um,
We'll see. We'll see.
oh, mate, I'm interested in talking to you, yeah, in a week's time and see how you went with it.
I'm curious. Maybe
Do
it all
you
goes to hell and you never heard of me ever again.
you just disappear in the jungle?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
I'm like, I found a purpose and it's in the middle of nowhere with no reception and just.
mate, if you're happy, you're happy. You may become a
Exactly.
monk.
I don't think it's
So
gonna happen, but we'll see.
yeah, so you don't have much of an expectation about what may happen. You're just open to whatever.
I mean, I'm very curious because like I've never done too much psychedelics. Like I've had some pretty fucked up weed and had some pretty bad trips in the past from various drugs, but this is supposed to be next level shit. And I'm curious, but on the other hand, like in general, I would say from the people I know who've done it or who do psychedelics and it somehow changed their lives a lot, those people in general would, from what they told me, would have much more internal conflict with a lot of stuff in their lives. They had some like huge trauma in the past, like messed up families, messed up, I don't know, personal relationships, everything. And they were often like kind of lost with what they want to do or were not too happy with where they were. But I'm at the moment, I'm just like very like there's nothing really bothering me too much. I've solved all my traumas in the past, so I'm just like very, I would say I'm very stable with where I'm at. I'm very happy where I'm at, so I'm not expecting too much of a change. I'm expecting to see a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because apparently you can, and you very likely will see like entities talking to you and guiding you through your memories and this kind of shit. And that's just gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be cool, I would say.
Mate, absolutely. And look, I'm glad for you if you're undisturbed by any past trauma. I think that's probably a good space to be in prior to doing something like that. So were you saying like with your friends who, you know, have all this past trauma, heavy stuff going on, are you saying that led them to want to do ayahuasca, or did ayahuasca change their experience of life afterwards?
I would say so, yeah. I would say that a lot of these people had some, I mean, some of it may be like more, might be more common, some of it might not be as common, but in general, I would say those people had, yeah, like we're not able to cope with the past experiences or fully cope with it. So they wanted to, because I mean, I don't have the experience yet, so I can't really tell you what it's like, what it's gonna look like, how it feels. But in general, yeah, I think people, and that's even how like the people organizing the whole thing describe it, that it's supposed to be like healing process. It's not like get high, because like with other drugs, it's always like even either psychedelics, shrooms, and so on. Even though like everyone tells you, okay, it's actually very enriching generally, but this is like this is supposed to be like healing in the first place. So it's not like you don't go there for the high, you go there to realize stuff or to sort out something, because apparently it's very easy to be more objective with your past traumas and past experiences than you can do in like reality. But also then a lot of people just like I heard this opinion that it's something you do when you're called to it. So the reason why you're called to it might be very different for anyone. I'm definitely not doing it because I need to learn something about myself. There are definitely some things I would like to understand better, and maybe I'm not saying I don't have any like issues. I'm just saying I'm not like it's not definitely holding me back. But it's like there are definitely some stuff I would like to observe from this different perspective, and if that helps me to do that, that would be actually cool. But for me, for example, the reason was just very experimental. I just wanted to experience that because I've heard a lot of generally just positive feedback on the whole process and the whole experience. It has changed some people totally like 180 spin, but that typically happens for someone who was objectively just not the best person ever, and then he just realized he's being a dick or a douche, and he doesn't want to do that anymore. So he started like being very totally different, which I'm not saying I'm not I'm perfect, but I don't think I'm total douche. And I don't think like the stuff I do, like for example, the way I make money or anything else is something I should. I just don't. Even though I do it for the money, I don't think there's anything like I should.
Morally wrong.
Yeah,
That you
exactly.
feel bad about. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't expect any major changes in my perception. I expect to maybe like experience a lot of new stuff, maybe ascertain myself in certain life views and viewpoints of on like how to handle certain things. But yeah, I don't really expect to like just run away from everything I have at the moment, because I think I'm very happy where I am at the moment, so I wouldn't want to run away from that.
Yeah. No, that's really good, man. That's so interesting. I'm very keen to talk again in a week or so, whenever you have time, and yeah, catch up on that experience.
It's gonna be fun, yeah. Or maybe we won't, because I'm gonna be in the middle of
Oh, exactly. Could go
Amazonia.
either way. As long as you're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, I don't think I would be happy. So like, we probably will catch up. But next time we can do it in Europe, because like you have a scheduled trip to Europe, long time coming, I would say.
Tentative, but there's a good chance. Absolutely. I would love to do that, Peter. Yeah. Yeah, been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I will let you go because I know you have work to do, and I do as well. It's 8:10 here. I've got to get to work, get ready. Yeah, thanks so much, Peter. It's been really good.
Yeah, thank you so much as well. And it was a pleasure to be guest number 1 or 0, maybe even. Let's see if this gets there.
Yeah.